Hey there everybody, welcome back to the channel, and if you're anything like me, you probably have an Uno lover in your life. For me, that's my sister. She can't get enough of playing reverse cards. I got her an Uno rug for her birthday, and I know anytime that we're hanging out together, there is a high likelihood that Uno is going to be hitting the table. And that got me thinking, what are some card games that I could try to introduce to try to maybe broaden her horizons outside of just Uno? And so over the last few months, as I've been playing some different card games, I've identified 3 games that I think that are going to be really good candidates to try to break her out of that Uno mold. And so maybe you have someone in your life who just keeps playing Uno and you can't get them to try something else. Hopefully these 3 reviews are going to be able to help you maybe find some alternative games to play. There's only so many +4s that you can take before you start to lose your mind. So the first game we're going to be talking about is Flip 7. This is coming to us from the Op, designed by Eric Olson, and as you can probably tell, it is a very holographic and shiny box. People are going to see when you pull this game out. It is very eye-catching. And right on the cover here, it says the greatest card game of all time, which is quite the claim to make on the cover of your game. Now, Flip 7 feels like it is a twist on the classic game of blackjack, where you're going to be get dealt cards and you're trying not to bust. Now, Flip 7 is a game that is made up of a suit going from 0 to 12. Now, there's going to be a number of cards equal to the value of that number. So 12 12s, 11 11s, 10 10s, and 1 0 card. And every player is going to get dealt cards as they play a round of Flip 7. You can either choose to take a hit, which is going to flip the next card dealt in front of you, or you can choose to stay, cashing out the points that you've accumulated so far. Now, the catch is you are going to bust if you ever reveal 2 cards of the same value. So while those 12s are going to net you the most amount of points, they are also going to have the highest likelihood of showing up again because there's 12 of them in this deck. Now, in addition to the deck of cards ranging from 0 to 12, there's going to be some modifier cards as well as a couple of different ability cards. Players are going to keep getting dealt cards until they either bust or decide to stay, or if they flip 7 different values, which is kind of like your jackpot in this game. If you can flip 7 different values, you're going to get 15 bonus points for that round. So that's your incentive to push your luck a little bit and try to reveal those 7 different cards. Play is going to continue until one player gets 200 total points. That's pretty much it. You're just hitting or staying, pushing your luck to see who can get the most amount of points every round until someone eventually gets 200 points. Now, Flip 7 is the ultimate distillation of a push your luck game. Literally, all you're doing is either choosing to take another card or choosing to step away from the round. And as simple as that sounds, it is just addicting and incredibly fun to play. I really like the distribution of values, where the higher values, there's more of them in the deck, but the lower values, you're able to maybe push towards getting that 7 different numbers and be a little bit safer while you're doing that. I also want to highlight the ability cards. I think my biggest fear in this was some of that take that, like, negative player interaction that these cards might have. But oddly enough, you can choose to play those cards on yourself. Take, for example, the card that forces a player to flip 3 additional cards. If you're behind, or if you have a second chance card and you really want to push forward in a round, you can use that play 3 card on yourself to kind of jumpstart you and give you a whole bunch of extra cards before it goes around the table again. The only one that's a little bit negative is the one that freezes someone out of a round. But even then, sometimes it's nice to get frozen out of a round. Sometimes it takes that decision away of, I was going to push my luck, but maybe it's better that I got forced out because I'll just cash out what I got and be ready for the next round. It also has such great moments of excitement and drama. I mentioned before that there are a couple of different cards that are like modifier cards, and they can be pretty swingy on what they can do to people's scores. There's one card in the deck in particular that doubles the score that you get for a round, and that is like enormously game-changing for this game when you're only going up to 200 points. There could be someone who is like 100 points behind, and if they get dealt that 2 times card and they have a good run, they are right back into it. And sometimes it's like, I'm so behind, I'm going to keep pushing my luck, and sometimes they bust, but sometimes they have a great run and it's just like exciting, it's like uproarious, it is such a fun time. It's also a game that really lends itself really nicely to having nice table talk and just casual conversation. Really, all you need to do is hit or stay when you're on your turn, and so it's a really breezy game to play. I think when we're talking about folks who like to play Uno, I think part of Uno's appeal is that it is just like a social game. You just throw down a card, you're not really like thinking too strategically about what you're doing. But I think that Flip 7, if you want to get more into it, if you want to think about it and kind of keep track of what cards have been played in previous rounds and have been discarded, you can kind of like get a little bit more heady into it and kind of keep track of cards if you want to. Or you could just, you know, have a good time with it and just say, okay, I'm going to push my luck, hit me. And, you know, you could play it either of those two ways. But I think because it really promotes that kind of table talk, it's really simple turns, I think that it would be a great alternative to folks who like Uno. I think the fact that it's rooted in blackjack, that kind of hit, stay, or bust, I think it's very easy for people to wrap their head around the actual rules. This is a game you teach in like a minute or two, super simple, and it's really fun. I've taken this to a lot of different situations and it has just been like a hit every single time. I think it's presented very nicely. I really enjoy the art on the cards, kind of like this like Art Deco 1920 style. I think it looks really nice. So I'm gonna give Flip 7 a Gold Apprentice Meeple, strong recommendation. I don't think there's any group or like situation where like this wouldn't go over well. It's just such a fun, quick game. Highly recommend, check out Flip 7. And if you're enjoying the video, please consider liking and subscribing to join the channel. I do a lot of reviews and previews and playthrough videos and list videos and all sorts of board game content. And next week we are going to PAX Unplugged. There's going to be a lot of fun live streams and interviews and a lot of good content coming up from that. So be sure to join the channel so you don't miss anything. Anyway, back to our review of Uno Alternatives. Up next we have Trio. This is published by Happy Camper, designed by Kaya Miyano, and Trio feels like a super evolved version of Go Fish. In Trio, your goal is going to be to collect sets of 3 of different numbers in this deck. Now, in Trio, the deck is going to be made up of 1 to 12 with 3 cards of each of those values. Now, at the start of a game of Trio, depending on the number of players, you're going to be dealt a number of cards, as well as set up a number of cards in the middle of the table. Now, what you can do on a turn in Trio is either flip over a card from the center of the table, revealing its value, or you can ask a player, including yourself, to either reveal their highest or lowest value in their hand. And now the catch is, during the setup of Trio, you need to order your hand from highest to lowest. So you can only ever reveal the highest value or the lowest value. Everything in the middle is locked until those other cards at either end of your hand are freed up. If you can find 3 matching numbers, you collect that set and your turn immediately ends. If you ever reveal 2 different values that don't match, your turn immediately ends and it goes to the next player. Now, the ultimate goal in Trio is to collect 3 sets of 3 different numbers. Once someone has collected their trio of trios, they're going to automatically win the game. And while memory is an aspect of Trio, I think it's the thin layer of deduction that really has made me fall in love with this game. Kind of reading into how people are playing their hands, on what cards are they trying to reveal or ask people to reveal versus what cards they're just blindly looking at on the table, gives away a lot of information of what cards they might be going over. And so if you can kind of piece together that information faster than other people around the table, it's a really fun race. As more people start to collect trios of cards, that pool of information gets smaller and smaller and you're able to piece it together much faster. There's also a really fun twist where the 7 value, and remember, right, we're ordering those cards from highest to lowest, so more often than not, that 7 is going to be trapped right in the middle of people's hands. If you can get the trio of 7s, you automatically win the game. So it's a little bit of like a shoot the moon kind of element to it, where maybe you're really falling behind, but if you've been keeping track of who might have those 7s, you still have a chance to be in the game. Trio has become such a little unassuming game in my collection. It has actually become my most played game in 2024. It plays so quickly, it's really palatable to almost anybody, and I've really fallen in love with it. I think it has a lot more depth than at first glance, and I just can't get enough of it. I really adore Trio, and it's just one of those go-to card games that I've just started carrying everywhere, and it's finally one of those games where if I bring it to a party or I bring it to a family event, people almost get excited to play it, and it is a great sign when a game is able to do that. People get excited to play it. That is a winner in my book. And so I'm also going to be giving Trio a Gold Apprentice Meeple, strong recommendation. The smallest caveat, it is a little bit of memory. I know some people are sensitive about that and really don't like that. But again, I think that there is more to it than just calling it a memory game and it's reductive. I think there's a lot more depth to Trio, and I really love it. Big recommendation, I think, for the Uno lover in your life to kind of get them to try something else. Again, it kind of relates to Go Fish. Like, it still has that touch point of like kind of a classic card game, but I think it does a lot of interesting things. So Trio, strong recommendation. Definitely check it out for the Uno lover in your life. Now, lastly, we are going to be talking about Penguin Party. Now, this version was recently imported to the US by 25th Century and is designed by Reiner Knizia. In Penguin Party, we are going to be playing our 5 different suits of penguin cards and trying to build a penguin pyramid, getting rid of as many cards as possible from our hand. Now there's 5 different colors of penguins in this game, and we are going to be building a 8-layer pyramid. The first layer will have 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, and so on. Now the trick to Penguin Party is that you can only play cards that are supported by other cards of a matching color. Now with the first layer, those 8 cards can be whatever you want. Players can just freely put them there. But as you start to build higher and higher into these levels, you need to be supported by at least one other matching color. If you totally kill off a line of penguins and there's no more colors, you're going to be stuck with all those cards in your hand, which are going to be negative points at the end of a round. And so you really have to be strategic of how you try to lay out your cards so that you assure that you are going to have a place to play your penguins later on. And I realize there's a lot of P words being said in this section. A lot of P words in this game. The playing of the penguins will continue around the table until either a player gets rid of all the penguin cards in their hand, which very rarely happens, or you can no longer play any more of the cards in your hand. At that point, you get a -1 penalty for every card left over in your hand. After all players are done in a round, you shuffle the cards up, deal them out, and you'll play a number of rounds equal to the number of players. Whoever has the least amount of penalty points by the end of it all is going to be the winner. Now, of all the games we've looked at this video, I think Penguin Party is the most similar to Uno in a couple of respects. The first is the obvious way that you play your cards, right? You need to have those matching penguins underneath you in order to play cards from your hand and actually shed those cards, matching how you have to play cards in Uno, matching a number or a color. I think the second similarity is how mean Penguin Party can be. If you see someone trying to set up a strong base for the penguins that they need to play out, and you go out of your way to try to play cards to just kill off entire lines of penguins where they could have played them, it is really heartbreaking, and that person will get saddled with a lot of negative points. Very akin to playing a +4 or a +2 in Uno. You can be really, really nasty with what you do to people and the way that they're trying to set up their cards in this game. But on the other hand, there's a really nice unsaid cooperation that can sprout up during games of Penguin Party. If you and another player have a lot of cards of the same suit, you are both mutually vested in trying to make sure that there is a pathway for those penguins to get played. And eventually you're going to have to collapse on each other, but it's really interesting the dynamics that can spring up if you kind of recognize another player is also trying to get rid of a lot of the same color as you. It creates some really fun dynamics for rounds of the game. My biggest drawback for Penguin Party is that sometimes it feels like the round can almost be predetermined based on what is dealt out to people. If one player is given a lot of one color of penguin, it can be really hard for them to survive in a round where everyone else is playing different colors and they're going to get cut off from any route that they had in order to play more of those cards. It's still rare that that happens, but it does sour certain rounds when it feels like you never stood a chance to be able to get rid of a lot of your cards. And so overall, I'm going to give Penguin Party a Silver Apprentice Meeple. I think this is a really pleasant little card game. The penguin art is really cute. The building of the pyramid is really fun. I like the kind of table presence and dynamic that has. And I think out of all 3, this is probably the #1 recommendation for someone who does like Uno. I think it has that meanness that I think a lot of people who play Uno like. And it also has that kind of shedding and kind of color matching as you're trying to build up this pyramid. And I think it also creates just a more interesting dynamic than just playing it to a pile in the middle of the table. And so there you have it, 3 games for the Uno lover in your life. And I can't deny Uno is an institution. It's incredibly memeable. It's just like a cultural touchstone of a card game, and there is fun to be had with it. But if you want to try to get that person who loves Uno in your life to branch out, try some different games, I think these 3 would really do a great job. And I will say, if they insist on only playing Uno, get Uno Flip. I think Uno Flip is probably the best Uno variant that I've played. It's genuinely kind of a fun game to play, and I think really interesting with, like, it has 2 sets of Uno cards. You can flip the deck over and there's like a dark and a light side. And I hate to admit it, but I kind of like it, honestly. So if you do insist on getting an Uno game, get them Uno Flip. I think that's the best variant to get. And even if you are not an Uno lover, the holidays are coming up. I think all of these would do really well as just kind of games you could bring to holiday parties or get-togethers. They are all super easy to teach. They all have, I think, classic game touchstones that people can really pick up on pretty quickly. Thank you all for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you on the next one.